The cafe on the corner of the street was unusually crowded that afternoon, filled with chatter, the smell of roasted coffee beans, and the soft background music that gave it a cozy charm. At a small table near the window sat a young man who looked completely out of place in his surroundings. His clothes were old and worn out, his shoes scuffed, and his backpack looked like it had survived years of struggle. He ordered nothing more than a small cup of coffee, the cheapest item on the menu, because that was all his wallet could afford. He sipped it slowly, stretching each drop as if it were gold, trying to make his presence last in a world that constantly reminded him of what he lacked. He wasn't there just for the coffee. He was there for the free Wi-Fi, hoping to finish an online job application before the day ended. His laptop was cracked at the edges, its screen flickering, but he tapped away with determination. Behind his tired eyes was a dream he refused to give up, the dream of becoming a writer, someone whose words could move hearts. But life had a cruel way of pulling him down. Rejections filled his inbox, and bills filled his pockets. Yet he kept trying. At another table sat a teenage girl with her father. She looked excited, flipping through a notebook filled with sketches. She wanted to show her father every page, every line she had drawn, but the man across from her seemed distracted. He kept answering phone calls, his eyes glued to his screen, his face stern. He was a businessman, one of the city's most respected CEOs, known for his strict discipline and sharp decisions. But at that table, he was just a single dad who didn't know how to balance his responsibilities and his daughter's yearning for attention. The young man with the worn-out backpack noticed the girl. He saw how her smile faded each time her father ignored her drawings. He understood the pain of being invisible, of being unheard. He had lived with it all his life. Gathering courage, he pulled a pen from his bag and tore out a sheet of paper. With quick strokes, he sketched something on it. His hands moved fast, guided not by training but by empathy. Within minutes, he had drawn a cartoon version of the girl, holding a giant pencil, standing tall like a superhero. He hesitated, wondering if it was too bold to approach, but something inside pushed him forward. Quietly, he walked over and placed the sketch in front of her. "I think your drawings are wonderful," he said softly. The girl's eyes lit up instantly. She giggled and looked at the paper as if it were the most magical thing she had ever received. "You made me into a hero," she exclaimed. For the first time that day, she felt seen. Her father looked up, slightly annoyed at the interruption. But when he saw the sketch, something shifted. He studied the young man, the worn-out clothes, the cracked laptop visible at his table, the cheap coffee, and then he looked at his daughter's glowing face. He realized how much his child craved this kind of recognition, the kind he had failed to give. "Do you do this often?" the father asked, his voice calm but curious. The young man shrugged. "I just like making people smile. Sometimes it's all we can do for each other." The father didn't say much, but the moment stayed with him. When his daughter insisted on inviting the stranger to join them, he agreed reluctantly. Soon, the three of them sat at one table. The girl chattered happily, showing her drawings while the young man praised her imagination with genuine warmth. For the first time in weeks, the father saw his daughter laugh without restraint. And guilt tugged at his heart. The CEO began asking questions. Learning that the young man was struggling to find work, trying to build a life out of words and stories. Something about his honesty struck a chord. The businessman had climbed from nothing himself, though years of success had made him forget those days of hunger and cold nights. Seeing the young man was like seeing a reflection of his past, a reminder of the boy he once was. When the bill arrived, the father covered it, of course, but he also slipped a business card across the table. "Come see me tomorrow," he said. "I can't promise much, but I think you deserve a chance." The young man didn't know what to say. Gratitude swelled in his chest, but so did doubt. Was this real? Was it pity? Or was it fate nudging him toward a new beginning? He took the card, nodded politely, and whispered, "Thank you." That night, he lay awake in his small apartment, staring at the card. He thought about giving up countless times before, but somehow, each time life threw him down. Something small pulled him back up, a smile, a kind word, or now, a little girl who believed he could turn her into a hero. The next morning, he walked nervously into a tall glass building downtown, clutching the card like it was his ticket to another world. He expected to be turned away at the door, but instead he was welcomed, guided upstairs, and soon found himself face to face with the same businessman. The CEO wasn't cold this time. He listened carefully, asked about his dreams, his struggles, and most importantly, his stories. "You've got something rare," the CEO said, after a pause. "Not everyone can see the world the way you do. You don't just write or draw, you make people feel seen." "That's powerful." The young man blinked back tears. No one had ever spoken to him like that before. The CEO offered him a small role at his company, nothing fancy. Just a start in the creative department. It wasn't the dream job yet, but it was a doorway. It's an opening to a future that had always felt locked. Weeks turned into months. The young man worked harder than anyone else, pouring his heart into every project. His ideas were fresh, his passion contagious. Soon, he wasn't just surviving, he was thriving. The CEO's daughter often visited the office, and each time she did, the young man greeted her with new sketches, turning her into different heroes. An astronaut, a doctor, a queen. She adored him, and in her joy, her father found his own healing. The bond between them grew not just as employer and employee, but as people who had saved each other in quiet ways. The young man gave the girl the attention she craved, and in return, she reminded him of the childlike wonder he thought he had lost. The father, watching this, realized he had not only hired talent, but also found someone who could bring warmth back into his life. One evening, the three of them sat again at the same cafe where it had all begun. The girl held a new drawing, one she had made herself. It showed her, her father, and the young man standing together, smiling under a bright sun. She titled it, "My Family of Heroes." The businessman looked at the sketch, then at the young man, and for the first time, he allowed himself to smile fully. "Maybe fate knew what it was doing," he said quietly, and the young man, once lost with nothing but a cracked laptop and a cheap cup of coffee, realized that sometimes the smallest acts of kindness, sketch, a smile, a simple gesture can open doors to worlds you never imagined.